Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Hello, my name is Craig. Super Bowl week, which of course is a huge week in the gambling world and a date that obviously concerns people like me. And my co-host, as always, Dan Trolaro. Danny, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Craig. I'm great. Big weekend here for sure.
No doubt about it. Happy to have Sam on the show. Sam is a gambler in recovery who's also doing some really cool things with a telehealth site called Evive. We'll get to that in a second. Sam, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's tell your gambling story first before we get to the Evive. How long has it been since your last wager?
Yeah, it's been around 6 years. It was December of 2019 that I got into recovery.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm very proud of you for that. Let's hear a little bit of your story. How old were you when you first were exposed to any type of gambling before it became a problem?
I started gambling at 12 when Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker on ESPN.
It's amazing. I wonder if Chris Moneymaker's aware of how many, potential gambling careers or poker careers he spawned after that huge win all those years ago. Because it's every person we have on this show of a certain age. If poker was something they like to do, it all was because of Chris Moneymaker's come from nowhere win. So he wins. You're 12, and what was it? You and your buddies started playing basement Friday night Texas Hold'em games?
That was it, man. My parents bought me a poker table, and they said, this is a lot better than you drinking on the street.
Little did they know, right?
Little did they know.
So how quickly from that did gambling or playing poker or cards become an everyday thing?
Probably when I got to college,
Okay.
I started playing every day in the dorm room, and then I turned 18 and I started spending, 3, 4, 5 nights a week in the local tribal casino.
Got it. What part of the country are we talking about?
I went to UC Santa Barbara. So, I lived on the beach and spent most of my time in a smoky poker room.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I remember, after the Moneymaker win, and Dan, I want you to jump in on this, the online poker sites exploded. I remember I'd sit in my basement on my desktop computer, and I'm not a big poker guy because I don't like the speed of the game. It's too slow for me. But when you have nothing else to do, and it was legal, whether it was Party Poker or any one of the other sites, Bodog, etc., I'd be playing four games at once, 4 tables at once. And Dan, I wonder when you look back on kind of your etymology here and you're evolving from a gambler to someone who spends his life trying to help people from becoming compulsive gamblers, if that was a kind of a watershed moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with the cards, the blackjack, the poker, for me, Craig, I was like you. Poker was too slow for me, so I had to play multiple different tables or hands. I would also then have to have blackjack going on in the background, maybe a bet on the sports game. And, that's how you can kind of tell if someone's starting to develop a problematic relationship with gambling. It's not just for the fun. Sam, just like you, I was playing nickels, dimes, quarters, dollar bills maybe in the basement of my friend's house playing poker. And I'm a bit older than you are, but that's how it started. It started as harmless, no problem. But when you see somebody achieve success like Moneymaker did, it just absolutely took off, and it was unbelievable.
So, Sam, for you, as you start playing more frequently, whether it's in a smoky, Native American casino or online, how fast from like your 20s or 21-year-old did it become out of control?
Yeah, so poker was actually pretty okay for me. And then when I was 23, I got introduced to sports betting. And within a month, I went from $5 on the Golden State Warriors in a bar with my friends to $200 online on like Ugandan women's basketball at 2 a.m. So yeah, it was within 30 days for me where I just completely lost control.
Got it. And how long did that last for?
It probably took me about 5 or 6 years until I was about 27 or 28 to recognize that I actually had an addiction. And then I tried to quit cold turkey, and I couldn't,
When you say, let me interrupt you for a second. When you say it took you 5 or 6 years to recognize you had an addiction, if you say that in a vacuum, it doesn't mean anything. In practical real life, that says to me that you were either having financial problems or making bad decisions with getting money, how you spent your money. People in your life came to you and said, hey, Sam, you're not yourself. What was going on 5 or 6 years in for you to suddenly come to the realization you had a problem?
Yeah, my career in the tech industry took off, and I started making a lot of money, and all of the money left over after food or rent went to gambling. And I would get my paycheck and I would say I'm only going to gamble $100. And 30 minutes later, I had lost $2,500. And I spent the rest of the week eating top ramen because I couldn't afford to go to the grocery store.
Got it. So in the moment when you're living that kind of lifestyle, were there ever like a look in the mirror, self-talk, like, all right, Sam, this is getting out of control. You're making really good money. I'm making, six-figure salary now, and I've got nothing to show for it? Or were you just a runaway train for those 5 or 6 years?
I was mostly a runaway train for those 5 or 6 years. And then when I was about 28, one of my friends got married and bought a house. And I thought, man, that's weird. I've been working 60 hours a week for the last 5 years, and I have no money in the bank, and I hate myself, and I feel ashamed, and like maybe this is a problem for me.
Got it. And when you first came to that realization, did you act on it immediately, other than the cold turkey attempt to quit, or no?
Yeah, I tried cold turkey, and I probably failed 20 or 30 times. And then I found a psychiatrist in the back of Psychology Today, and I walked in and I said, I have a bad gambling habit. And they asked me how traumatic my childhood was and what I was trying to escape from. I didn't know that there was such a thing as like a certified gambling counselor. So this person just did not know how to deal with me and my issue.
And Dan, that's a problem you and I talk about a lot, that so many people, thankfully, are willing to raise their hand and ask for help. But to be fair, nobody knows where to go to get it.
And that's the challenge, right? When we talk about drug and alcohol counselors, there's thousands upon thousands of drug and alcohol counselors available. And then we go looking for gambling counselors. And, in New Jersey, maybe there's 50 in the New Jersey area that are certified gambling counselors. So that's a field that really needs to be more up and coming. And Craig, to your point, we talk about this. The number of inpatient facilities dedicated to gambling only, you can count on maybe one hand, right?
I think there's 3 of them. I think West Virginia, Minnesota, and Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, and you got Louisiana, too. Cory down in Louisiana does a good job. But it's a handful. And so we need more of that, because you're right. Sometimes people start to treat or try to support, and they're not really familiar with what they're talking about or how to help and support, because gambling, it's a process addiction. It's not a substance addiction. So it has some similarities, but there's also some differences.
So, Sam, I ask this question a lot. Dan knows. Normally, for people like me, you and Dan, there's that final bet. There's that final day. There's a final, going to totally off tilt from a gambling standpoint before you actually do the work that it takes to get into recovery and have a successful recovery. For some people, it's being arrested. For some people, it's I literally have no money in the bank and my wife found out or spouse found out. For you, was there such a moment? Was there that last night, 6 years ago, that you gambled that you can share with us?
Yeah, I proposed to my fiance in October of 2019, and she said yes. And I said, cool, I can keep this a secret for the rest of my life. And then in December, she came to me and she said, hey, I'm having second thoughts. 80% of the time, you're awesome. And 20% of the time, you're secretive and irritable. And I don't know what the heck is going on with you. You need to tell me or we're not going to get married. And that was the moment for me.
Wow. So it wasn't like a bad loss or you were bankrupt. It was the woman, the love of your life, coming to you saying, I don't think we're going to get married. You got to start talking.
Yeah. And at that point, I accepted that I was ruining my own life, and I thought that I deserved it because my identity was my addiction.
Right.
But I didn't think that she deserved it. I said, I need to quit for her or I need to end my life. And that was basically where I got to.
And are you guys still together?
We are. She's my wife. We've been married for 4 years. We have 2 kids. Wow. She is, my rock, man.
She is your ride or die. You're very lucky to have her. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she's my day one, man. And when I told her, gambling wasn't even on her list of possibilities, right? She didn't know anything. She'd maybe spun a slot machine once in her life, but she said, look, man, people fix this. I'm pretty smart. You're halfway smart. Like, we're going to do it together,
What? By the way, did she accuse you of other things first? Like, hey, are you cheating on me or something like that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, her list of possibilities, she didn't accuse me, but she was like, man, I thought it would have been infidelity or drug use or something. But, like, gambling, like, what even is that? Can you be addicted to that?
So tell me, I love hearing from people like you because, you're not new to recovery, but you're not in it for 30 years either. So your perspective is interesting, especially for the audience that listens to this show and the people that we hope to reach through this show. Were there stumbling blocks along the way?
Oh, yeah.
And if you could just describe those for people, because I think it's important, Dan and I talk about it a lot, that it's great to wake up one day and decide, okay, today's the day I'm firmly committed and finally committed to getting help and living a life without gambling. But the reality of it is that the far majority of people, not everyone, but the far majority of people, myself included, even after we've come to the realization that we need help, that we're powerless to this addiction, we still, whether it's ego-based or anything else, we still kind of dip the toe back in the water a couple times before we really dedicate ourselves 100% to living without gambling. How about for you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think, one, I had to learn about the neuroscience of gambling and what was happening in my brain. And when I understood what was happening when I spun a slot machine or like made a sports bet, it started to reframe my perspective from like, this is my identity, I'm a terrible person, to like, I'm putting drugs in my brain when I gamble and it's changing how I show up in the world, right? And I don't want to be that person. Wow. So that was really important for me. And I think the second piece is it's logistically complicated, man. I had to separate myself from access to my own money, right? I gave my wife financial control and I took out all the cash in my wallet and I left my debit card at home, right? Because I was committed to recovery and I would pass the corner store and be like, maybe I could go buy a scratcher, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. It's one of the hardest things for men to do because, we're men and we like to be in control of the finances. I know that's stereotypical. I lived it as well. I get a stipend every week, and I'm blessed to, be employed and I do well again. But I get a very small stipend of like $100 a week. And outside of that, I have no control over my family's finances anymore. And I'm actually good with it. It's a much easier way for me to live without having access to money that, I in the past would have gambled with. I'll bring Dan in here in a second as well, but I want you to tell me about Evive, which is a project you created. And it's a telehealth opportunity for people like us, I suppose, to go online, not have to leave their homes or offices, and talk to a therapist. Walk me through it.
Yeah. So I ended up sharing my story anonymously on Reddit back in March of 2023. And it generated all of these, people reaching out and saying, man, like, how do I talk to my wife and what do I do? And I have a background in working in mobile technology, like mobile health technology. And I said, someone needs to build a mobile app that can help, gamblers get the help that they need. So Evive, we do not provide counseling. We do not provide telehealth directly. I don't have clinicians on my staff, but it's a mobile application. It's completely free. You can download it in any app store, and it will help you better understand your behavior. It will help educate you about recovery and what you can do to build this defense network and support system in your life. We have an online community with over 1,000 people now. You can go in and share your story. We host online meetings. And it's been really great, man. We partner with public health departments across the country. So we actually digitize all of their existing, support systems into the app. So it basically becomes like a digital extension of 1-800-GAMBLER, right? You can find our tools, but you can find those, 50 certified gambling therapists that Dan was talking about in New Jersey. We're trying to amplify the system of care and make it accessible to everybody.
So it's an information-based site that also allows peer-to-peer conversation, much like a GA meeting might, but you can do it from the comfort of your home, your car, your phone, your office, that type of thing.
Exactly. And like fundamentally, I believe that, the same technology that sports books use to make gambling accessible and engaging and personalized, like we should be able to use that technology to make support modern and engaging and to fit your life. And I don't care if you go to GA or Smart Recovery or talk to your wife or find a therapist, like I'm agnostic with what the right recovery plan is for you.
Sure.
But I just want to put all of the options under one umbrella and make it super easy for you to find it and not feel alone, man. I hid my gambling from everybody for 20 years. And I felt miserable and isolated, and that sucks. I don't want other people to go through that.
Well, I think it's great that you're doing it. It's an extension of all the great work that Dan's done for, the last 5, 6, 7 years, what I try to do on this show. I'm proud of you. Congratulations on the recovery. Congrats on Evive. And I hope to see that app grow and grow and grow because, we need more opportunities for people to easily connect with other like-minded people and other people that can steer them in the right direction. So I wish you the best of luck with it, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Hello, my name is Craig. Dan Trolaro with us as always, and happy to bring in here for the final few moments of the show the Senior Vice President of Public Policy and Sustainability, Cory Fox, over at FanDuel. In full transparency, 5 years ago, I joined forces with FanDuel as their global ambassador for responsible gaming. And I'm very proud of that relationship and the work that we've done together collectively. And, of course, the work that I get to do with Dan on this show and, college campuses and high school gymnasiums and auditoriums across the country. And thought with the Super Bowl being in a couple hours, we would talk to Cory Fox for a few seconds. Cory, appreciate the time. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Craig. Thanks for having me. Hey, Dan. Happy Super Bowl.
Yes.
It's a fun week to talk to you.
Yeah, so a couple of things out of the gate, just background things that I think the audience might be interested in. Do you guys view Super Bowl Sunday the way retail stores view Black Friday? Is this like the get ahead day for books, or am I totally off base in suggesting that's how important Super Bowl Sunday is for companies like FanDuel?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the answer is yes, Super Bowl Sunday is huge for our business, but not in the same way that Black Friday is big for retail business. Obviously, Black Friday is big for a retail business because that's when they move into the black, meaning that they've made their money for the year. For us, the Super Bowl could go either way on revenue, but it's, the biggest opportunity for us to engage with customers. We'll have more folks on site than we have on any other day of the year. So it's absolutely enormous for us from an engagement standpoint, but not necessarily from a revenue standpoint.
Got it. One of the big things in your world is the influx and the amazing growth now of the predictive markets. Companies like Kalshi and Polymarket started it. You guys are now doing it. Your competitors obviously are doing it now as well. And I was reading on yesterday online that there's like $47 million nationwide being wagered on what the announcers for the game might say. And I found that to be interesting and frankly problematic that, if I'm Mike Tirico, I can control the outcome of a prediction that might swing the pendulum $40 to $50 million worth. And I recognize you guys kind of have to get into that business because it's such a burgeoning, growing business and it's competitive to what you guys do. But walk me through the concern you guys have with all the energy and resources you guys spend to make sure that your customer is the most educated customer that does wager, that this unregulated kind of dark horse comes out of nowhere and kind of upsets the apple cart a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, Craig. We've been looking at the prediction market space for quite a while. As it grew sort of in the earlier part of 2025, we realized that it might be something that we legitimately needed to get involved with in order to engage the customers who were interested in that product, sometimes in different jurisdictions or across sort of different types of areas than we have on the sports book. So we started looking for a partner who shared our belief in compliance and putting the customer first. And so that's why we wound up partnering with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange to launch FanDuel Predicts. We launched a few months ago, but, it's been a deliberate rollout, consistent with how we launch new products, to start focused and learn and then scale. So, we're live in all 50 states, but mostly with financial markets. So that's, the price of gold, the price of oil, the consumer price index. And then we do have some sports markets in certain jurisdictions. But to your point, we're going to be really careful and thoughtful about the types of markets that we offer on FanDuel Predicts. So we don't have those types of, they're usually called mention markets. We're not offering any mention markets on FanDuel Predicts today, and we'll be thoughtful as we expand out the offerings in the coming months.
I talk about our relationship with great pride because as I said to open up this segment with you, I've seen the resources FanDuel as a company spends, not just in financially, but also the amount of man and woman power that you guys dedicate, to the tools you've created, like deposit limits and time limits and wager limits, which I think are very important for especially new gamblers to know that they exist, so they can kind of protect themselves from themselves as they get into this deep pool of legalized wagering. But I never asked you the question, before I'm going to ask you right now, and I'd be fascinated by your answer. Why? Your competitors don't do it. They pay lip service to it. And I see FanDuel, millions of dollars worth of resources towards making sure that your customer is not just educated, but if they choose to take a few moments out of their time before they make a wager to set these limits up and use these tools to protect them, I'm wondering why you guys, chose to do it and why you continue to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, Craig, you and I have hung out a little bit. Hopefully you think I'm a great guy, but we're not doing this because, I'm a great guy or anyone at FanDuel is a better person. We're doing it because we think it's the right thing for our business over the long run. You announced my title at the beginning of the segment. There's that word sustainability in my title. And what we mean by that is that we want our users to play at a sustainable level. We want users who are able to play on our platform, week over week and month over month, at a level that's good for them and is providing them entertainment. We don't want folks to burn out because it's not good for our business in the long run. There are a finite number of customers out there in the U.S. who can access our products as it is. And we want them to be with us for a very long time, getting a great entertainment experience because that's what these products are for. So we're focused on it because it's the right thing for our business over the long run.
Walk the audience through what happens because I think it's important. We've had scandals in the last 12 months, both in Major League Baseball and in the NBA. And I've tried to explain to my audience on the podcast and obviously on WFAN that we would have never known that those players potentially did something untoward if the operators like yourselves didn't self-report it to an independent body to investigate it and, of course, to the leagues themselves. And if you could walk people through kind of the mechanism that exists where if somebody that's an active athlete, a professional athlete in any one of the four major sports in this country, makes a wager in a manner that they're not allowed to make a wager, walk us through kind of the mechanics of how you guys flag that and what happens when you do.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And so, FanDuel is partnered with many of the major professional sports leagues in the U.S. We work with them on integrity investigations and also making sure that we are preventing wagers from certain individuals, such as athletes or team officials, who cannot be wagering on their own sport. So we have lists of who those are, and we're constantly monitoring our platform to ensure that we're not allowing those wagers that we shouldn't. We're also, we're lucky here at FanDuel. We are part of a larger online gaming company called Flutter Entertainment that has what's called a risk and trading team that sits all over the world, manually trading the prices of the different sports markets that we offer with, folks based in Melbourne and Dublin and New Jersey, as well as other offices. And so they're watching wagers come in, and both through manual means with them watching those wagers come in, but also we've got automatic systems in place to detect anomalous wagers. We're looking for wagers that don't make sense to us. Sometimes, as a hypothetical, if someone is wagering on the first pitch of the third inning 3 hours ahead of time, well, that's not a normal wagering pattern. That's not something one normally does. And so we'll take a good look at that wager, and then we can do a further investigation of who is that individual placing that wager, why are they doing that. And when we think we found anomalous activity, we then report that to our state regulators. We report that to an integrity monitoring association, which then reports it out to the other regulated operators, and we report it to law enforcement. And we also report it to the leagues themselves. So an investigation ensues, and we're able to get to the bottom of it. And that has resulted in some of the headlines that you've seen. But I would say, that is the regulated market working, and we are detecting those. And if not for the regulated market, those wouldn't be found, and I don't think that's a better reality to be in.
Talking to Senior Vice President of FanDuel, Cory Fox. One more question, and then Dan and I wrap it up after that. One of the things, and I've publicly asked this question, I've asked it privately, full disclosure to the audience as well. You guys made a decision to partner with Kevin Durant, who's obviously an active player in the NBA. DraftKings has a partnership with LeBron James. The other sites do similar things as well. Was there any concern, or is there a concern now, or any consideration that because of the scandals that we have witnessed, some are still alleged, to be fair, guys have not gotten their day in court. Some have been, played out for better or worse. Was there any rethinking of maybe not the best idea to have a relationship with a current active professional athlete?
We've thought through those kinds of issues, but I think at the end of the day, we know that we are committed to compliance and committed to integrity and will avoid those types of issues. And we see, our partnership with KD as an amazing opportunity to reach all of his fans. Obviously, anything we do with KD has not been focused on the NBA. KD has a lot of great insights into the NFL and is a huge sports fan overall. So we really enjoy talking to him. And, we enjoy our partnerships with the professional sports leagues, both to show, the difference between a regulated operator such as ourselves and the unregulated operators who don't have the opportunity to partner with the professional sports leagues, use their marks, engage with their players, advertise during their games, whereas FanDuel does because we're part of that legal regulated market, which is an important message for the betting public to see.
Well, we're just about out of time. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some insight into your world, the world of legalized gambling. And like I said, very proud of our relationship and hope 10 years from now, you and I are both still doing it with FanDuel and making a difference because, as you know, the more people that wager, the more likelihood we've more people than ever before who also go down the road that I went down and that Dan went down. And whatever we can do to help those people before they need it. And if they do, wind up waking up one day as a compulsive gambler, that we also provide them access to the resources they need to get the help that I so badly needed, Dan so badly needed, and so many of the people we talk to on the show, need day in and day out. So thank you for being a part of that, and thank you so much for joining us today. I do appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Dan. Thank you for all the work you do, Craig. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right, Dan, before we let you get out of here, Super Bowl Sunday, the biggest wagering day of the year. And then we take a little respite. And then, of course, March Madness comes around, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Just give me 30 seconds or less, where you think we are today for the Super Bowl as compared to when you and I first started the show almost 6 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Massive amounts of difference, Craig. And a lot of it lies in what Cory was just talking about. I mean, we're seeing the rise in prediction markets now. Prediction markets, I think I saw an estimate, it's like $2 billion a week going into prediction markets. And so, not only we were now coming up to the Super Bowl, you've got event contracts, you've got daily fantasy sports is still out there. You got traditional sports betting, in-play sports betting, live betting, more and more accessibility. More states have come online since when we started the show 6 years ago. So just more eyes on the Super Bowl with more reason to watch. And we also tend to see some of the fallout in terms of harassment and threats and, intimidation and social media misuse. So the landscape just continues to evolve, Craig, and it's not going backwards. It's only continuing to grow and build. So it's important that we have these conversations and people know where the tools and resources are. And
now that you're more than 12 years into your recovery, silly question, do you still watch the Super Bowl and can you watch it without worry?
Yeah, matter of fact, Craig, February 11th, so next week, the journey of recovery is now 16 years next week.
Wow.
And it's February 11th, and it's crazy. I am at the point where I don't crave Super Bowl boxes or I just enjoy it for the love of the game. I enjoy the commercials, and I really love watching that damn Puppy Bowl sometimes.
Good way to end it. I gotta stop it right there. That's Dan Trolaro. He's legitimately doing God's work coast to coast, and just got engaged last weekend as well. So congratulations on that. Obviously, very happy for you as I've gotten to call you a friend for these last 5-6 years, and I'm happy for you and for your new fiance as well. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of Super Bowl Sunday. And I'll see you again next week right here on Hello. My name is Craig.